I don't like
Good hours. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call this meeting to order. First order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest. This is just for the budget committee meeting. Seeing none. The minutes from April 5th, that budget committee meeting on April the 5th. Was any errors or omissions? Not. Mover and second for that. Mover and Cerna, all in favor? Carried. No delegations, no presentations. All right, Alan, we'll let you take over for the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so at the committee's April 5th, 2022 meeting, a reorganization of the Public Works Department was deliberated and ultimately approved by the committee. A full-time Public Works operator was approved to be hired in 2022, while a seasonal operator and 2 student staff positions are no longer required. The net cost of this change is an increase of the township's property tax levy of $35,200. This change increased the township's consolidated tax rate to 2.29, resulting in an average residential property paying an additional $88 per year, which is comprised of $83 in property taxes and $5 in garbage levies. If no other revisions are requested, this will be the final impact on residents as a result of the township's 2022 budget.
Thanks, Adam. No correspondence. We don't need another budget meeting. Open question period, and I don't believe there's anybody on the screen that is. Any questions from council? Okay, we're going to have a very quick budget meeting. Mover and seconder, the budget committee recommend to township council that the 2022 budget be approved as presented in the amount of $15,251,413, and that the budget committee recommend to township council that 2020 user fees be approved as presented in Appendix A of the 2022 budget. Mover and seconder, Jaguar, Widner, all in favor? Carried. And since no one is here on the screen, I don't believe. Mover and seconder, the budget committee adjourned its meeting at 7:32. All right. Widner and Jaguar, all in favor? Carried. Well, congratulations to the Adam, because this is a very concise and very efficient budget. So thank you. All right, now we are going to move into our regular council meeting. So we're going to call this to order. Disclosure of pecuniary interest in regard to this council meeting. None. The minutes from April 5th. Was there any errors or omissions? And April 7th, sorry. Mover and seconder for those minutes then. Cerna and Moore, all in favor? Carried. We got Mark there by any chance? Yeah. Mark, are you there?
Good evening, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. You have a presentation for us.
Yes, sir, I do.
You got the floor. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. I can try sharing my screen and see if that works so I can present our annual report. Just bear with me for 1 second. And can you see that okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Great. Well, it's my great honor to be with you tonight, and thank you very much for having me. And I would just like to go through our 2021 annual report. I won't go in elaborate detail because it is a lengthy report, and I know you have a busy agenda this evening. But I would like to highlight really a lot of the key points out of our report And what this is this is a report that I give to all of our councils, including our Police Services Board and to the Alden Detachment members. And as we move through, right at the top of the report is the message that comes from the Police Services Board. And the message that comes from the chair is very well received by our members, because it's really the ability for them to get some feedback from the Police Services Board, especially from the chair, for her appreciation and the board's appreciation for their hard work. My comments, I'm very pleased to be here as your detachment commander, and this is my first year working at the Alden Detachment, although I am a Alden resident, and I'm very, very happy to be here, and it's my great pleasure to present this report to you. This slide is basically the structure of our police service and the leadership of the police service. We are overseen by the Alden Group Police Services Board. And in terms of the detachment structure, you can see this is our current structure and complement. I am very hopeful that we will be receiving a increase in our detachment complement, so more frontline officers on the roads as part of the provincial service delivery model review. And I'm anticipating, once I get those results, I will share them with the council, how many officers we are expecting to receive. As we move through the presentation, you'll note that our auxiliary hours in 2021 were low. And again, even the pictures themselves are dated with Inspector Fishley in the picture. The reason being is the auxiliaries have really, throughout COVID, they haven't really attended the detachment too much because of the restrictions, everything that was in place. As these are starting to lift now, my anticipation is that we will see much more involvement from the auxiliary members and more involvement in our communities. However, even still, through 2021, they're still able to log over 191 patrol hours, which is extremely beneficial and well received by our members. For the 2020 to 2022 business plan for our detachment, we really were focused on 3 areas: crime, traffic, and other. And within the other, really focus on generating efficiencies within our detachment. One of the examples, and we'll touch on it through the presentation, is our mental crisis response team worker, or MCERT worker. She's been a valuable addition to our detachment. This is obviously a shared partnership between the OPP and the Aylmer Police Service. And our MCERT workers has been invaluable to our detachment and to our communities. In terms of generating efficiencies, we do operate a collision reporting center at the detachment, and how that benefits the community is by having an accommodated member that handles the collision reports at the office. That allows our frontline officers to remain available for priority calls for service and higher visibility in our county. Our crime management plan is overseen by Detective Sergeant Victoria Laux. It's a very comprehensive plan that includes not only the crime unit, but also the community street crimes unit, or CSCU. Our CSU is responsible for investigating property crimes and drug investigations within our county. And our domestic violence investigators also bumped in with the community mobilization and engagement officer, which is overseen by the detachment area sergeant crime unit, which is Victoria Laux. Our traffic management strategy, we have a dedicated unit, although all officers are expected and required to be proactive in their police work and address traffic tickets. We do have a dedicated traffic management unit to respond to specific complaints and traffic complaints within our communities. It's been very, very successful and has really helped to bridge the gap and allow for greater communication between the OPP, myself, and our communities. When citizens have a traffic complaint, they report it, the report comes to detachment, I assign a traffic management unit member, that member then follows up with the complainant, and we engage resources to respond to those requests. And so far, I've had very positive feedback about that. Our community policing committees, unfortunately, COVID has really impacted those committees and our ability to engage. As things are opening up, we are expecting much more engagement with our community policing committees. We do have a very well-established community policing committee in Alden County, and I'm very hopeful and very looking forward to really getting out and engaging more. We do follow the Ontario mobilization and engagement model for community policing, as indicated through our 7 community policing committees. And really, the essence of it is partnering with our community agencies and stakeholders to make sure that we have responsive and adaptive police service delivery for our communities. We do have several community mobilization projects on the go right now. And you can see here that the Alden Community Drug and Alcohol Strategy Development, elder abuse, mental health and crisis response, police and hospital transition framework between the OPP and the St. Thomas Alden General Hospital, senior frauds and scams, and rapid response working groups for Alzheimer's are priorities for Alden County OPP. In 2018, again, based in response to community concerns, a situation table was identified and created to create a comprehensive drug and alcohol strategy. There's 4 main areas that this situation table is focused on, which is prevention, treatment, harm reduction, justice, and community safety. And this still is in existence today. Here you'll see a picture of our community safety officer and also media officer, Provincial Constable Norm Kelso. He wears 2 hats right now while Provincial Constable Carlson is away. And Norm has been doing a fantastic job, really trying to be that link between the detachment and the community, and really helping us to engage through media and social media to generate some interest for the detachment and to notify the public of all of our provincial traffic safety initiatives. Special projects for us, ATV patrols are really becoming a priority for us. I've recently submitted a decision note to have ATVs permanently assigned to our detachment. And that's in response to community concerns and resident concerns where they want to see a greater OPP presence on our rural trails, not necessarily just for enforcement, but just for that visibility and that peace of mind, knowing that we are out there patrolling the trails for their safety. Our Marine unit has had a very successful year as well, and that is part of our overall provincial strategy for enhanced visibility on our roadways, waterways, and trails. As I touched on with the ATV patrols, within Alden County, we do have quite a substantial uptake and growth in the rural trail usage, with over 100 kilometers of well-maintained ATV trails in our county. I did touch on the Marine unit, and this year, the members logged over 186 hours of patrol during the season, and they had over 48 calls for service. Many of these calls for service dealt with, unfortunately, missing and overdue swimmers and boaters, and as a result of just really wanted to make sure that we have a high visibility out there to do our best for prevention and visibility. I touched earlier about our community street crimes unit, and throughout this year, the CSCU investigated over 181 occurrences. They've executed 131 judicial warrants, charged 197 persons, and have laid over 1,000 charges. Below, I've noted some of the noteworthy investigations that have taken place, but I would like to focus on the cocaine trafficking investigation. This investigation occurred in August of this year, and based on some information that was received by members of our unit, a tracking device warrant was obtained and granted to aid in this investigation. And as a result, 2 separate search warrants were executed at 2 residences within Alden County with a tremendous results. A large seizure of drugs, quite a bit of Canadian currency, and most importantly, 9 illegal firearms were taken off of our streets in our communities. And I was very impressed with their work on this investigation. Just to highlight some of the stats and statistics for our detachment, our calls for service have been trending up since 2016 until now. 2020 is the anomaly because of COVID, which really did impact our calls for service, especially property crime in a positive way because more people were home, so our property crime numbers went down. We do a comprehensive breakdown through our intelligence-led policing and crime abatement strategies to really look at calls for service and breakdowns through analytics per zone. You can see that Malahide is just behind Central Alden in terms of calls for service within Alden County and the number of occurrences. I touched earlier about our traffic safety unit, or TMU, and these members participate in all of our provincial traffic safety initiatives. and really help us quite a bit with especially during the festive ride season. And they are responsible for really participating and getting our numbers up in terms of number of ride checks completed to make sure that we are hitting our target thresholds for ride grants that we apply for and receive, and make sure that all of those funds are used directly towards ride campaigns within Alden County. Unfortunately, there has been a significant increase in the motor vehicle collisions within Alden County, and we attribute that again to reopening of Ontario and more motorists being back on our roads and highways. There's been an increase in our fatal motor vehicle collisions this year. We had the regional analyst conduct analytical report to determine if there's one specific causal factor, or if there's a way that we could really apply intelligence-led policing to try to have a proactive approach to this. Unfortunately, there was no correlation between any of these accidents. Some were drinking and driving and racing. Some were just simply distracted driving, inattentive driving, and lack of seatbelt use. And it wasn't weather related. They were just a variety of different functions. And we're really going to focus on, again, increased visibility and utilizing our social media and media accounts to really promote public safety. Our breakdown of our collisions by month show that November was our highest month for collisions this year, with over 125. And when we do the causal factors or the primary cause of collisions, majority of the collisions were property damage in nature and involved wildlife. And if you've driven by our detachment in the last few months, you'll notice a number of destroyed cruisers in our parking lot. And we're certainly not immune to the dangers posed by wildlife in our area. Throughout 2021, our detachment was committed to crime prevention. A large component is proactive, again, education, provided through social media, increased officer visibility, and adherence to the principles of intelligence-led policing. We utilize analytics, not only analytics generated by our detachment, but through outside sources such as engagement of our regional operational analysts to really help us identify areas of concern and how we can best deploy resources to mitigate crime. Here are our violent crime stats. Unfortunately, we did have one murder right on the very first day of the year, and predominantly and historically, our numbers are extremely low in terms of violent crime and homicide. You can see the breakdown of property crime, and there has been a dramatic drop in property crime, and I attribute much of that to the excellent work done by our CSU members and really targeting areas of concern and hotspots that have been identified through our regional analyst. You'll note that while the possession charges were down, our trafficking charges were up, and that was based on some of those investigations that I touched on from our CSU. It doesn't mean that there's more prevalence of it in our community. It means that this is intelligence-led, officer-driven statistics from their investigative excellence. We do still support the London, Elgin, Middlesex Crime Stoppers program, and I'm very happy to report that in 2021, the hard work done from the Crime Stoppers program resulted in over $177,000 in recovered assets and currency for victims. For our financial reporting, you'll note that the average 2022 municipal policing cost per property across the province is $354.80. It's actually down from that when the base service cost per property has been reduced to $172.07. And while I would love to say that that's because of the efficiencies generated solely at our detachment, the reality is that across the province, the OPP is down over 1,000 officers, which has directly resulted has resulted in the lower base rate of our per cost per property. I mentioned that we do remain committed to the efficient implementation of cost-effective policing, and we have implemented a number of strategies to reduce the use of overtime. The Auditor General recently released a report, and I'm happy to report that we are already ahead of the curve and the recommendations from the Auditor General report in terms of how we operate and run our shift start times. We do adjust shifts and have different shifts to coincide with peak times and calls for service. And we do that specifically to reduce overtime costs. You'll see these are the peak hours of the day where we receive the highest volume of calls for service. And we have officers that are working on duty during those times to mitigate any overtime during this time frame. This chart, I'm not sure if you can read it from where you are, it's pretty small. Basically just outlines the revenue collected on behalf of the municipality for services provided through criminal record checks that were completed by the Alden OPP detachment. When discussing our TMU, I did discuss the RIDE grant. Each year we apply for a RIDE grant as part of the Mothers Against Drinking and Driving. And in 2021, we received $13,243 to fund police officers and RIDE checks throughout Alden County. And again, we have applied for that RIDE grant again this year, with all of the funds will be going directly towards supporting this initiative. These are some of the photos that are taken from community events. This Port Burwell Public School Buildable project was one of the very first projects that I was invited to upon my arrival at the Alden detachment. I was very pleased to be invited to come back into the schools and really try to build that network again and making sure that the police presence is a welcome addition to our schools and that we can really promote positive relationship between the police and the students. Some of the photos here, again, supporting some of the initiatives which we very strongly believe in, such as the Alzheimer's awareness. Here's a picture of our MCERT worker, and everyone knows here Mike Butler and Elmer Police. And these are some of the photos. We do recognize our officers and their hard work as well. And we've had award presentations at the detachment just to make sure that our officers are really recognized for the outstanding work that they're doing serving our communities. And that is my presentation, subject to any questions. I apologize, I moved through it fairly quickly, but I know you do have a busy agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for that presentation, and certainly Malahide and the OPP, not only with you, but your predecessor, Mike Butler, have always had a good working relationship. And I want to thank you and your staff for responding to our request to have increased OPP detachment come out to our hot spots that we've tried to slow down traffic in the township, and certainly appreciate that. And it's certainly been effective. So I'll open it up to council. Any questions from council on Mark's report? Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You and Mark. And I want to reiterate the mayor's comments. You guys are doing a great job with the traffic. We get good response from you, and it's really appreciated.
Thank you very much.
One question I do have, and I've spoken to you about this before, the fatality on Wilson Line, there's never been any names released. It's been about 6 months. I get a lot of questions. There's a lot of rumors out there. I don't know how to answer it. So what's the best answer for the situation?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question there. I don't know if it was my speakers, but could you just please repeat that?
Oh, the accident on Wilson Line?
Yes.
The fellow on the bicycle was killed. I get a lot of people asking why there's never been any names released. It's been 6 months, and I have no answer for that. So what was the best answer you could give me?
So at this point, unfortunately, the investigation is still considered to be ongoing. And what I can share is that until there's actual formal charges laid, we won't publish names of anyone. Unfortunately, the name of the deceased should have been published and was made after the next of kin notifications were completed. But in terms of the investigation and suspects that we have in that investigation, that information will not be published until charges are actually laid. And that's, I'm hoping to get some updates on that fairly soon. It is a bit of a complex investigation. And like I said, I think the best way to handle it is either direct calls to our detachment and we can field them, or just tell them that the investigation still remains ongoing.
Okay, thank you. There's a bit of a rumor mill out there, but that's a good answer. They can call you if they want any answer. So that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? Donnie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mark. Thank you also for your service and your team. I echo my colleagues' comments. Everybody's been very satisfied and we've had positive comments. I just had a question about early in your presentation, you talk about the service delivery model review, which may result in an increase in staffing. Are you able to expand just a little bit on that and comment if that comes with a price tag as well for us?
Yes, I can comment on that. So again, unfortunately, we were waiting for some information on the release of the provincial budget. Within the organization, there has been a review of all of our detachments and the staffing levels. And I don't believe it's any secret in terms of what information has been out there from the independent review panel, as well as the Auditor General's report and the workload that, the workload that was placed on our officers that were dealing with shortages. As a result, a retired chief superintendent and a committee was put together to review every single detachment in the province and look at our calls for service, do a workload analysis, and see how many officers we had that were actually frontline available for calls, not just officers that were on paper, but actual frontline availability that officers are actually out in the field. As a result of that, I do anticipate very favorably that we will be receiving an increase in complement of officers. Again, based on the way our billing model is structured through the Municipal Policing Bureau, there may be an effect, but if it is, that distribution is carried across the province. It's not carried specifically by Malahide. And as you can see, our base rate has dropped significantly per household. Again, based on the lack of officers that have been on the road. We're down over 1,000 officers. And what I anticipate is our billing model is based on 4-year trends. So even if we were to go through a mass hiring phase right now, that cost of that associated is based on a 4-year trend. So we wouldn't see any impact immediately. And in 4 years, that increase, if any, may even be mitigated through other efficiencies that we would like to generate within the detachment to reduce the calls for service or the billable calls for service.
Okay, thank you for that. That's very helpful.
Any other questions for Mark? See none. Mark, thank you for your presentation. We'll let you off easy tonight. So good night and thank you again.
Good night, and thank you very much again for having me.
Take care. Mover and second, a presentation from Inspector Mark Lucas, Detachment Commander for the Alden OPP Services, providing an OPP annual report be received. Glinsky and Widner, all in favor? Carried. All right, Jeff, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone. My March report is as I have nothing to add to my March report, but I'm open to any questions that any of the council members may have for me.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Question for Jeff on the emergency service activity report for March. No. Mover and second, report number F2207 entitled Emergency Services Activity Report March be received. Mover and Glinsky, all in favor? Carried. Is Matt there? Matt, there he is.
Yeah.
You're up next, Matt.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This report is brought before Council in response to direction to staff relating to noise complaints due to truck traffic entering the village of Springfield. As these are county roads, the county staff requires resolution from Malahide to County Council before initiating such review or providing any mitigation means. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any questions to Matt on the air brakes, Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Matt. Matt, a few years ago, like 4 or 5, we had a fellow in Lyons requested these Jake brake signs or whatever you call them. And we were told there was no sign available. And he was told he could produce his own sign or make his own sign and put it up. He in fact did that, and the county instructed the township to take it down. So I don't know, can we put one back up in Lyons then at our cost? Because we took this guy's sign, but that was the legislation Mr. Johnson told us at the time. Thank you.
Yes, through you, Your Worship, that's something that I'd be happy to look into. on council's behalf. Again, being a county road, that would have to go through county staff to look at something like that. But we can definitely look into what signage requirements there are, because I believe legislation may have changed on that much since that time. But I'd be happy to look into that.
Thank you.
Any, Jess? Jess?
How long has it been since the sign at Summers Corners for engine brake been gone? Because I know I used to see it there all the time, and I haven't, I don't drive that way all the time, so I didn't notice when it finally disappeared, but I was wondering if it was a long time ago or whether it just disappeared now. Because I said that there was one there, but actually there isn't.
Yeah, I haven't seen it lately either. Mark or Matt, do you know when that was taken out?
No, unfortunately, I don't know when that one was taken down.
Okay, well, you've got some work to do and it's a little bit of research. Go ahead, Max.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just recollecting here, but I think a few years ago, there was a speed limit change in that area. I'm wondering if the sign disappeared at the same time as whatever the speed limit was when they installed the new signs. I think it was to increase the speed through there. So thank you. Something to look into.
Yeah, well, Matt will have a report coming at our next meeting. Any other questions? None. Mover and seconder report number PW 2223 entitled County Road Air Brake Noise Complaint be received. Township of Malahide requests the Elgin County Council conduct a truck study count to inform on the volume of traffic entering and exiting the village of Springfield on Elgin Road, County Road 52 and Elgin Road 49 and Elgin Road 40. Township of Malahide requests the Elgin County Council install prohibiting engine brake signage on all Elgin County 52, 49, and 40 entering the village of Springfield. Certainly, I don't see why we can't add that Lions Line on that as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the number on Lions Line?
Well, it's
Is there a number?
across the fire.
Yeah, is there a number?
I'll get it.
Okay. Okay, mover and second for that one. So Serna and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Next one, Matt.
Yes, so dating back to 2019, the township has engaged CJDL to undertake a 3-phase road safety audit of the township's rural road network. Phases 1 and 2 have been completed and received by council, and phase 3 has been included as a priority project in 2022 approved budget by council ahead of formal budget approval. So the proposal provided by CJDL to undertake phase 3 of the project is less than the township budgeted amount for the work, and staff recommend this project be awarded to CJDL as they have intimate knowledge of the project, having completed the first 2 phases. And I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Questions for Matt on the review? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Matt. So I'm in favor of going ahead with phase 3. It's just this report reminded me of the phase 2 results. And I believe when we discussed the results and the proposed recommendation last September, we were going to, I think staff were going to come back with a report and making sure there was room in the budget. I do see in the 2022 budget, we just approved that there is a line. So there is money to implement the phase 2 recommendations, but I just wanted to know, so is there a report coming back then to finalize exactly which roads and which recommendations we're going to implement?
Through you, your worship, that's exactly correct. With that timeline from the last September meetings, there was a request from council for a number of maps to identify the locations of where these projects will be taking place. So now that the budget's been approved, we'll be preparing those maps to bring back to council before actually implementing those recommended changes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Matt? Mover and seconder report number PW 2225 entitled Road Safety Audit Phase 3, appointment of engineers we received. Mayor and clerk be authorized to enter an agreement with CJDL Limited of Tilsonburg for the purpose of completing phase 3 of the roadside safety audit. Gare and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Matt. Or one question for you, Matt.
Sorry, Matt, you were gonna run, weren't you? Anyway, I have a question. I understand one of our road graders has got a $40,000 problem or 45,000 or whatever. Has it been repaired and will that be affecting any of our road building abilities or any projects this year?
Through your worship, that we did have an issue with one of our road graders, an emergency issue that required a repair. I haven't seen the final cost on that project yet, on that repair yet, so I can't quite comment quite yet on that one. But I can follow back up with council on whether there will be any impact to such operations because of that repair.
Okay, has it been repaired?
I believe the repairs has been undertaken. I'm unaware if it's been completed completely yet, but it has been initiated.
I know they're waiting for parts and that's a common thing these days. Thank you.
Great.
Any other questions for Matt before we let him go? Okay, Matt. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, Adam, you're next.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a batch of section 357 applications processed by MPAC that I'm requesting council's approval. Section 357s are filed when changes are made to individual properties, such as removal of buildings or changes in the use of a property. The 2022 budget includes $102,500 for any potential reductions in property taxes, such as these. So far in 2022, total reductions about 16,000. Thus, the approval of these reductions is well within the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam on the reductions? Mover and seconder report number FIN 22 titled Application for Assessment Adjustments under Section 357 Municipal Act 2001 be received. Jager and Moore, all in favor? Okay. Okay, under committee reports, there's the Budget Committee in Long Point and the Long Point Source Protection. Any questions or comments on any of those? Motion receive and file then, please. Moore and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have correspondence. And there's 4 items on correspondence. Anyone wish to make comment? No one wish to make a motion, receive and file? Jager, Cerna, all in favor? Carried. Any other business? Jess?
Mayor Manel, sorry, I didn't find it fast enough. But I was just wondering, resolution by Gray Highlands to have the province remove HST on new homes. I would think since they're trying to encourage new home building, why that wouldn't be a good idea and something that maybe we should have supported.
What does the rest of council think about it? Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, one thought I have, if they don't pay it, we're gonna be paying it. And everybody else has paid it, so you take it away from somebody else got to pay for it. That's just one way of looking at it. I understand what you're saying, but housing has gone crazy, so. Thank you.
When I see houses going for 100, 150,000 over asking, taking the HST off probably doesn't make any difference. I don't see support for it, Jess, so. Okay.
You brought it up, that's fine.
All right, any other business? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to bring everybody's attention again that the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority is having a guest speaker on the 12th of May. There's from Oneida. And they're going to talk about their history, their culture, truth and reconciliation. I think it's going to be quite the event. And I just want to urge everybody, if they can make it, to come on.
Is this the new date, Rick? Because I know that what was one
Yeah,
date that was
yeah,
canceled.
it's been all over the place.
Okay.
This has been going, we've been trying to book this since last September, I think. And it's jumped around. We got to June, now it went back again. So anyways, that's the new date, May the 12th.
Okay, well, Adam said he'll remind everyone.
Thank you.
Anything else under other business? All right, moving to approval of the budget. Now that our budget committee has recommended, now we got to formally do it. So mover and seconder that on the recommendation of the Malahide Budget Committee, Township Council approved the 22-22 budget. It's presented in the amount of $15,251,413. And that on recommendation of the Malahide Budget Committee, Township Council approved the 2022 user fee be approved as presented in Appendix A of the 2022 budget. Jagger, Cerna, all in favor, carried. Moving to bylaws. Bylaw number 22-2204, being a bylaw to authorize the 22 township budget, begin a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Winder, Cerna, all in favor, carried. And mover and seconder, the council move in the closed session at 8:12. Pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act as amended, discuss the following: litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board relating to property on Avon Drive, labor relations, employee negotiation matter relating to a staff recruiter matter.
Sorry, that one's not on there.
This,
Skip that one.
skip that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3, a position, a plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or before by on behalf of the municipality or local board relating to the shared service agreement with the local animal shelter. Moving seconder, Winder, Moore, all in favor, carried. All right, during the closed session, the council provided direction to municipal staff regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters related before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards relating to the property on Avon Drive. There's nothing further to report. That during the closed session, council provided direction to the municipal staff regarding a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on or on behalf of the municipality or local board relating to a shared service agreement with the local animal shelter. So mover and seconder bylaw number 22-25 being confirmed already bylaw, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Mover and seconder, mover, Jagger, all in favor, opposed, carried. And council adjourns meeting at 9:01. To meet again on May 5th at 7:30. Blinsky and Widner, all in favor, carried.